Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are back with another brand new Mattel Jurassic World Chaos Theory release. As you can see, we've got another Wild Roar figure. This is the Kentrosaurus, and what's cool about this is not the same Kentrosaurus we had previously. This is a brand new sculpt entirely, and a very different looking version compared to the previous Kentrosaurus. I love the fact that Mattel will do that, rather than just kind of, giving us the same sculpt again and basically just a repaint. They actually, at least lately anyway, have been sculpting out brand new figures and giving us brand new figures overall. So really excited to dive into this one, especially because Kentrosaurus is awesome. But you can see the box art looks pretty much as it has for all of these Chaos Theory Wild Roar releases. You can see a nice shot there of the figure on the front, and then if we turn it around here to the back, you can see kind of a sneak peek of the action feature of our Kentrosaurus, and then down here basically like a little checklist showing off the other figures that are in this wave, all of which we have reviewed now on the channel except for the Pteranodon. So let's pop this out of the box and check it out. So here is our Kentrosaurus, the brand new version. Looking pretty decent, nothing overly spectacular. I will say I really like the sculpt. The paint apps, not so much. I think they're kind of generic and definitely very lackluster, especially considering we don't have any paint out here at all when we really should have. But I think overall the sculpt is really nicely done. Definitely excited to check that one out a little bit closer with a closer look. So I think we're just going to jump straight to that right now, and then we'll go ahead and check out the brand new version of the Kentrosaurus. So starting up here at the head sculpt of the Kentrosaurus, one thing that's different on this one compared to the last version is the fact that the mouth is sculpted in an open position. Previously, the mouth was sculpted in a closed position. You can see another thing that's different on this one compared to the older version is the fact that we have a lot of injuries and scars. Here in the face, you can see quite a few. This has been very common with this newest round of Mattel figures, and I think it's been really fun. Definitely enjoying that. Color-wise, we've got a green for the primary body color. You can see kind of almost like a chocolate bar brown there that runs around the eye, leads up here and overtakes the beak and the snout. You can see the nostrils sculpted there, and the skin texture again looks pretty good overall. The eyes are painted with a yellow, but it doesn't look like we actually have a black pupil. The pupil is basically that dark brown that you see there around the eye. Moving back into the neck, you can see more injuries right there straight away. Again, another few scars. You can also see some more of the brown leading along the back, more of the green down here on the lower part of the dinosaur. The skin detail continues to look pretty nice. You have some nice looking scales and everything here on the side of the neck of the dinosaur. Leading up, we can see the plates picking up, and again, just like we see on the body, you can see like little chunks taken out and scratches and scars and basically all sorts of injuries as you move through the course of the plates, which is really cool. The plates are all painted with an orange. Not necessarily my first choice of color for something like that. I think it looks a little bit odd, but it looks okay, I guess. But I do really quite like the realism, again, when it comes to the plates and all of the fine detail included within. Again, you've got all sorts of injuries and cracks and crevices and everything to all of the plates, which is a massive plus and a massive dose of realism. As you continue to move through the course of the figure, we still see that brown following along the back of the body, and you can see it kind of just starting to stripe down into the side of the body. We do have the shoulder spikes sculpted out. They look pretty good, not a whole lot when it comes to fine detail, but you can see some. They're just not as impressive as you see when it comes to the plates moving along the back. Leading down the front leg, you can see the leg is sculpted pretty decently. You have nice muscle definition. We can see the elbow, and the skin texture continues to look pretty nice. Unfortunately, as always, no nail paint, but we do have a gloss coat for the nails, so it does help to at least give them a little bit of a nice realistic shine. Moving back into the stomach, we continue to have nice looking skin texture the entire way through. You can also see a seam here, a joint here in the center of the dinosaur, which apparently is an articulated area of this one, but I think that has to do with the action feature. But you can see, again, that's a pretty impressive injury right there. I don't even know if I'd consider that a scar. That looks like a recent injury, but then there are all sorts of other scars and stuff as you move through. This one would be, just like with most of the newer figures, a nice one for a repaint. But as you move back, you have a little bit more of that brown kind of starting to trail off and breaking up, but at this point the brown is disappearing, and then past this point you don't see that brown at all. But again, we also don't see any color at all past this point either, because this is the last plate that is painted, and then we lead out into the actual spikes. And as you can see, detail-wise, the spikes look good, but there's no paintwork. We really should have had like some sort of an off-white or something, I think, for these, but unfortunately we don't. But I again love the realism, where you can see that one is chipped and stuff, leading out and broken actually in half pretty much. But I love that as far as the figure goes. The realism of this one is really nice, though it is very touchy. I will say that. I've had to stop what I'm saying and start over here a few times, because as I'm moving through, the dinosaur keeps making noises. But as you lead down here into the legs, you can see another big injury right there in the thigh, along with a few more slices. The muscle definition looks pretty nice in the thigh. You can see the kneecap right there. Nice calf muscle with, again, another slice through it. And again, you lead down into the foot sculpt. That looks pretty decent as well, again, with a nice satin shine there for the nails. And then you lead out into the tail. Again, you can see more injuries the entire way out there toward the tip of the tail. Moving along the underside, that looks okay. Nothing overly impressive, but decent looking skin texture. Just no variation of color at all. This one is really lackluster when it comes to the paint apps. Looking at it again from the opposing side, you can see the head looks pretty much the same, just less injuries and scars over here. Leading back into the neck, you see another scar right there. And there are actually so many on this figure. There's probably some that I'm not even noticing and I'm missing. Like there's another one, there's some more here. This one looks like it was just in a fight of some kind. Like it is absolutely covered in what I wouldn't say even injuries. I would say are actual open wounds if they just included a little bit of paintwork for them. But you can see, again, it looks pretty much the same over here, just different injuries, different areas of, chips and stuff taken out of the plates, and different slices through the course of the figure. The legs are in a bit of a different position if we actually put that where it's supposed to be. You can see this leg's just a little bit further forward, whereas the rear leg is trailing on this side. But again, different injuries and everything as you move through, which is nice. I'm glad they don't just kind of, repeat the exact same thing from the opposing side as you lead out again into the tail. And you do have kind of like a scoot-like appearance moving over the top of the dinosaur as you lead in between the plates all the way out onto the tail, which looks pretty cool. But definitely a decent looking version. Sculpt-wise, I think it's really quite nice, just pretty lackluster when it comes to the paint. Now, as far as the articulation goes, it's going to probably set off the action feature here, or at least the noises, but we'll try our best not to. But obviously, the leg can go forward and back. They can also go out away from the body. The same is for both front legs. The rear legs, forward and back, they kind of wiggle out away from the body a little bit, but not a whole lot. And then you've also got the tail left and right, which is definitely part of the action feature. Doesn't seem like it goes up or down, but there's also this little joint here where you actually have to connect this part of the tail, which can swivel, but that is totally useless articulation. And then we've got the joint here in the midsection, which can go left and right, but again, as part of the action feature. Before we check that out, though, I will say they did a great job of concealing the fax app code on this one. That is a really nice way to do it. You can see the fax app code right there. But it basically looks like we can operate the action feature in two different ways. First of all, you can move this part, which will cause a tail strike. And you can get a nice sampler of the noises right there. Also, the plates are actually, some of them are kind of rubbery, which I just noticed right now. I hadn't actually touched them before. They're very flexible. These ones are as well, actually the entire way through. Same deal for the spikes. They're all very rubbery, which is actually nice because it allows the spikes to look genuinely sharp without being dangerous at all. That's really, really nice. But of course, you can also move the tail. If I can get a nice shot here. Which again causes the shoulder spike attack. Sound-wise, those seem like pretty decent noises for the figure. I will measure it, but I don't think we really need to do any comparisons. I guess we'll just do our standard ones, but lengthwise, you're looking at about 12 inches or 30.5 centimeters. Height-wise, just a hair under 5.5 inches or about 13.5 centimeters. And again, for a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Glovosaurus, Robert Muldoon, and the Collect Day human being next to our Kentrosaurus. And as you can see, it's exactly the size range you would expect it to be. And even though it is a new sculpt, if you do have the older Kentrosaurus, it's definitely the same size as that one. There's really no difference in size between this one and most other Wild Roar figures. It's pretty much the exact size range you would expect. So I don't think we really need comparisons or anything like that. I feel like it's just kind of beating a dead horse at this point because it is very clearly pretty much the same size as the older version of the Kentrosaurus. So this brand new Mattel Jurassic World Chaos Theory Wild Roar Kentrosaurus is pretty fun, but so far it is definitely the most lackluster figure in the Wild Roar line up until this point. You know, I don't think the Pteranodon is going to be lackluster at all. I feel like that figure is actually going to be pretty awesome once I officially get that one in my hands. But this one just has, you know, sculpt-wise a really nice sculpt, but paint-wise it's just so boring. And the fact that it is in fact a species we've had previously kind of lowers this one on the excitement meter, but it still is exciting regardless to have a new sculpt of the Kentrosaurus, especially one with so much realism. You know, when it comes to all the injuries and stuff, I definitely want to get this one in, you know, another one in hand so that I can repaint it, because I feel like sculpt-wise it's really, really well done, very highly detailed, and all of the injuries just give the figure so much character. I think the only thing I would say is I actually kind of prefer the previous head sculpt over this head sculpt. So if I could take the old head sculpt and put it on this body and repaint it, I think that would be the best way to go. But again, it is very, very nicely done in both the fine detail, overall appearance, and realism. The paint, though, is super lackluster. It just, in general, is pretty ugly. Like, I don't think the tones of color look all that great. And normally I love, like, green on stegosaurs and, like, red for plates, where we only have, like, orange for plates in this one. But, I don't know, it just looks so naked. It just doesn't look very good when it comes to the coloration of this one. The fact that none of the spikes have any color at all is also really boring, and just again makes the figure look like it's pretty much only half painted, and overall is just not really that appealing of a color scheme. Articulation wise, it's decent. You know, it's got pretty much the usual articulation. Action feature wise is okay as well. Again, I think it's pretty much the perfect type of action feature for a Kentrosaurus, and on top of that, they did do a much better job of hiding the Jurassic Facts app code on this one, which I really quite like as well, and it's got some okay noises on top of everything. So if you are interested in this, I will include a link in the description to where I purchased mine on Amazon.com. So make sure you check that link, go grab this if you want it, and like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.